It's Chelsea.
It's Nina.
And you're in the Critics' Kingdom. Hello, everyone.
Welcome back. Happy to have you.
Yes. So this week we are reviewing a beloved show's film finale, as Disney really liked to do during this time period. We are reviewing the Famous Jett Jackson, the movie, which was also the series finale of the show. The movie came out in 2001, and the show actually debuted in 1998. And for the review portion, we're actually going to have Christian Banda. He's going to join us, so you will hear him on that side of things. But Nina, I mean, Famous Jett Jackson.
Famous Jett Jackson.
The impact.
Yeah,
of
it's
this
not
show and film.
It's not a light. It wasn't a light affair in terms of impact. Like I remember, first and foremost, like biggest crush. Like so
God.
Down for him. Like
Lee Thompson Young, so cute.
So cute. And I it was just one of those shows, man. Like it was like a little black boy playing a spy. You know what I mean? Like like playing a spy on television.
Right.
That was cool. And they did a really good job. Like the way that the show works. So the basic premise of the show, just in case anyone like either has forgotten or just hasn't seen it, unfortunately, it isn't available on Disney Plus. I have qualms, but I am no exec. Basically, there's this boy Jett Jackson, and he is a child star. He is on this show where he plays a character called Silverstone, who is a teenage spy. And he just, it's episodic. Each episode he goes and saves the world in some form.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the premise of the TV show, The Famous Jett Jackson, is that Jett Jackson, his family is in North Carolina. Like that's where his dad and his great-grandmother and his mother live. His parents are divorced though. And, he's been doing this show for a few years, like in LA, and he kind of decides that he wants to have a chance at being a normal child. So he convinces the network to pack up the whole show and put it in North Carolina. So we're watching his trials and tribulations every day, like being on set and playing this huge, just a character, right? This character who has all this prowess and can do all of these things and save the world. And he's super famous, but he's also just trying to be a regular kid, and he wants to go to school and he wants to hang out with his friends. So we're watching sort of him going back and forth in that life and just trying to figure it all out at a tender age of 14. So that's the show. And I think with that, I will get into a recap of the film.
Yes. It's the Famous Jett Jackson. Sorry, I just had to do that.
No, I mean, listen, it was we've talked a lot on this podcast about how important it is to be seen. This is pre-Up in a way. This was a show I was seen. I felt seen as a kid. And yeah, it was just a good time. So go ahead, girl, sing your heart out. What you gotta do. But yeah, so the film, we open on, what looks like, it's this big scene where essentially Silverstone and his handler, or the Morpheus of this place, Artemis, and Hawk, who is his partner, are all in this warehouse, and they're having a big face down with the evil Dr. Craig, who's their biggest arch nemesis, with the most evil man trying to take over the world. And they end up thinking that Dr. Craig died in this huge explosion, and with fireworks and all of that good stuff. And then we hear cut yelled, and we see that it is indeed Jett playing Silverstone in this just huge scene that they're shooting for the show. And so then we watch Jet sort of leave that set, where we kind of see, all right, famous kid, he's an actor. He goes back to his school, and we see the other side, like Jet kind of trying to live his normal life. We see how like kids at the school, he has his best friend JB, and he's walking with him, and kids at the school like come up, and like the jocks and stuff, they like they dap him up. They ignore JB, but they'll dap up Jet and just be like, oh man, like you're so cool, Silverstone is awesome. And we basically see him just sort of lament a little bit. He's like, JB's like, oh, your life is so cool. And he's like, but I mean, people don't know Jet. Like, people only care about Silverstone. So it seems. And we watch like a kind of cute moment. His other best friend, Kayla, sort of like doesn't quite ask him to prom. Or he like laughs at her, like joking, like, oh, like, not like you're going to ask me to prom. So there's clearly like a little, childhood love tension thing there. And they kind of decide to go to the prom separately, but hang out together. So go to the prom together. And then, but the basic point of it is that like Jet is like in a space where he's kind of lamenting, oh, I don't know if I like how I feel about Silverstone right now. And he goes back on set, and we're watching the plot of the show sort of unfold a little bit more. We see that in the show because Jet's acting it. We see in the show that the doctor may not have died in that explosion. They're figuring that out. And also he left behind this, portal-looking thing, this threshold-looking thing that's like a portal, like a time continuum machine. Obviously a prop, they yell cut, and we see that he's still sort of acting out his situation. And he's like, guys, I gotta go to prom. And they're like, we gotta shoot, and you got a contract. So no, you can't go to prom, sir. You have to stay here. And so he misses prom. Like, he shows up super late. Kayla's already gone. I forget if his mom is the principal. I should have looked it up. I'm sorry. But his mom is at the prom and is like, oh, yeah, you missed it. Kayla looks beautiful. And he's like, again, we hear that refrain from him, like, oh, like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. This is starting to interfere with, like, my life. And I'm more interested in that right now. So then he's on set again, like the next day, and an accident happens where soda is spilled onto like a soundboard, which causes this portal prop, the time continuum machine, to short circuit, and it creates like an electric blast that sort of just shoots Jet backwards. But lo and behold, when Jet wakes up, it's not Jet, it's Silverstone. And when we see Jet again, he wakes up in what we assume is another dimension, and he is living Silverstone's life. And part of like the plot that Jet had been playing out was that Silverstone is also starting to have issues because he's like, I want to know what a family is like. I've never had that. I've apparently been a spy my whole life. Like I wonder what it would be like to live on the outside, like live these lives that we like save people, that we save for other people. So, essentially they both just go through various trials of tribulations of first not understanding what's going on, and then realizing that they are in a situation where, they're just in a different life. For Jet, it's a bit less jarring. Like, he just thinks people on set are messing with him, and then he's like, oh snap, like I'm in Silverstone's whatever. For Silverstone had no concept that he was being acted. So like he's, they're just running around trying to figure out these lives, and Silverstone is really starting to like living as Jet because he like has friends and he goes to school and he like does all this kind of stuff. And Jet, on the other hand, in Silverstone's world is realizing that Dr. Craig is still around, and essentially he's achieved the ability to shapeshift, and he's now got this like dimension key and this ability to create new dimensions, and he's going to various major cities like within the Silverstone dimension and transporting them to his dimension where everyone is enslaved and it's sepia toned. So Jet is, like really intent, like he's like, oh, like he's trying to fight that. And meanwhile, like grandma has figured out that this is not the child that she pulled out of the womb. So she's like, who are you? What you doing here? And Silverstone is like, okay, like this is a situation, like I'm Silverstone, blah blah. And she's like, it's okay, honey, like it's good, like don't worry about it. Where is my grandson though? And through that, Silverstone realizes he's like, oh snap, like if I'm here, this time continuum machine, it must work, and like Jet must be in my world. And what he realizes through reading the scripts is that like what the writers are writing down is like has always been happening in real time for him. So whatever is being written down on the script, like, is what's happening in Jet's world. Also, Silverstone, in his first press conference when he was sort of blindsided, was decided to announce that Jet would be quitting the show. So now the whole town has turned on him. And all those kids that used to like dap him up now want to beat his ass because their parents no longer have jobs. It's getting very turbulent. Kayla big mad because she done got stood up by this boy, so he got to figure out a way to make it up to her. Like he's realizing that like Jet has real issues. But what he does realize while reading the script, he's like, oh snap, Jet is about to walk into a trap that's being set up by this like Dr. Craig. So he decides to go into the time continuum, and he shows up and he essentially tells Jet, yo, Jet, like I'm real Silverstone. I was living your life, but you're about to walk into a trap. You got to let me handle this. And he sends Jet back through the time continuum. So Jet gets back and he's like, oh, like I'm back. Like things are great. But he realizes that, you know, because the show is ending, the writers have changed the ending of the show, of this particular episode. And this particular episode, last episode, Silverstone's gonna die. So he's like, oh snap, I gotta go help him. So he goes back to the time continuum, shows up to help Silverstone. The shape-shifting evil man, Dr. Craig, turned into them. So like there's 3 of them now, and we don't know which is which, but somehow they really don't show how. Jet and Silverstone are able to just know which one of them is the imposter, and they defeat Dr. Craig, and you know they have their little like cute bro moment, and then Jet comes back into this world and he's like, guys, I actually think I'm gonna keep doing the show, but I want to live my life as Jett Jackson too. And everyone's like, great, that's totally fine. And like nobody like really knows what happened except for, you know, Grandma and Hawk on the other side. And yeah, then life just literally continues as it always was. And that is The Famous Jett Jackson.
All right.
The movie.
Well, the movie, yes.
The movie.
All right. Well, we will be right back with the review with my friend Christian Banda. So, on to the review. Joining us, we actually have our friend Christian Banda.
What's up?
Going to be reviewing this with us. So say hello to him, guys. Christian he works with me actually. He's a producer. And he knows all things movies, TV, entertainment. And you know, he's just all around dope black dude. You should follow him.
I appreciate that. I feel like the reason I didn't know how deep you were into the pop culture zeitgeist, and then like once we figured that out about each other, we're just like, oh hell yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, I was like, all right, yo, you be texting me at 2 a.m. like, you seen this show? And of course I'm up.
No, we're like on the same like time schedule.
It's terrible. It's a terrible way to live.
It is, because like we'll both be texting each other like 2 or 3 a.m. and it's like we both need to be asleep.
I don't know, man. I mean, Chelsea, you know, I've been on like this Western Coast for a little bit, and I've really enjoyed the fact that I know if I text you at 12 a.m. about a show that I'm watching. Yeah, if I text you at 12 a.m. about The Circle, like you're like, oh, I'm up.
Shout out Michelle Buteau.
Right?
It is so true. I will definitely answer you back. I'm not one of those people that goes to sleep at like 11. Like I'm up.
Exactly. I think that's no way to live. I mean, you're missing so much. The world comes alive at night.
The world was dead for quite some time. So what we should have all done is catch up on some sleep this past year, and the exact opposite happened.
Yeah, that's absolutely not what happened. I mean, was
like that's absolutely not what happened.
No, I'll never sleep again, honestly.
Exactly. You're just too busy like panicking all of the time. About all of these trappings that you thought were so secure, and now you realize can very easily disappear.
I will say though, on the way back from brunch, Chelsea, this nigga just was pulled out some backwoods and started just rolling a fat blunt in the middle of this crowded A train.
Yup.
It was 5:00 p.m. and I'm just watching in awe. And he lights that shit up, and this was like there's children around, and he's hotboxing this damn A train, and I was just like, New York is healing.
Yeah.
New York is coming back.
It's true. It's true.
I think I had like a Showtime performance on the subway the other day, and I was like, yeah, we're coming back.
Yeah, we back, baby. Better than ever.
I'm so excited to like come back to my city, like breathing and alive again.
When do you get back, Nina?
Well, I'm actually this week, I'm coming back for like a very small stint, quick 2-week, like see family and, see friends and such.
Yeah, guys, Nina and I are going to see each other.
Right? We're gonna physically be near each other.
Wow.
Yeah, it's gonna be super exciting.
It's actually crazy because we filmed, well, you guys aren't aware of this, but the way that we taped most of the episodes is Nina would literally stay over my house like the whole weekend for like 3 months straight.
And we'd watch like 10 hours of Disney Channel original movies a weekend.
Yeah,
which is
crazy.
Yeah, when I think to those times, it's like we were dedicated. Deeply,
we were
deeply
really dedicated.
Still are dedicated.
Nothing else to do.
So. That's true. Yes.
So admirable. So admirable. I love
it. But yeah, so coming back for like 2 weeks, and then I'll be back out here for another couple of months. And then on the show that I'm working on will be in post, which will be in New York because the creators are actually based in New York.
Yes.
I will eventually be back.
She's coming back to us, guys.
Good.
Slowly but surely.
I love it.
But I've learned a lot about the world out here. I have, Things are different on the other side of the country, man. You just perspective. It's important.
You know what's funny about that is that's what Jett Jackson realizes too.
That is exactly what happened.
That segue.
Come on.
Mwah. Wow.
Know me. Know my segues.
To the listeners at home, drop the phone. Give a round of applause for Chelsea in that segue.
No, but it's true. I mean, you guys all remember the premise. We just explained it of Jett Jackson, where he's just tired of living the LA life and he wants to go live with his dad and great grandmother in North Carolina and moves his whole show to North Carolina and basically stimulates the entire economy of a county.
Yep.
How irresponsible of his parents and family to opt into that type of economic responsibility, by the way.
It is actually wild. And I know we actually commented while we were watching the movie how weird it was that like his dad was not on set or he didn't have a minder of some sort because he was literally supposed to be like 14 or 15, Mm-hmm. And
looking
I feel
like a smooth
legally
25.
you have to have a guardian.
Yeah. Like you absolutely have to have, and the thing is that it actually can't be like tutors, agents, managers. Those don't count. Like it has to actually be like a parent
and
or a guardian.
His dad's the ops too. So you think like he especially in that backward ass town, like definitely when the cameras stop rolling, some shit. There's a Klan meeting somewhere in those woods. So like for his pops to not be with him at all times is rather chilling.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like it's just because his dad is like running for sheriff, and it's kind of like okay, but like, do you not care about your young son on this like entertainment set?
He's like I gotta save these white people.
Who's literally like single-handedly boosting this whole city's economy.
Officer
and
Jackson
overworking
said,
himself to
kids.
do it.
I said Officer Jackson said fuck them kids.
He really did. He said, but we don't get this money though.
The only time that he shows up in this movie for his son is like he technically stops a fight that's about to happen because again, like everybody's mad because he wants to be a child and it means that their parents no longer have jobs. Mm-hmm. But he literally shows up and is like, "Yo, you're supposed to be on set right now, little man." Like the studio called. You're supposed to be put your bike in the back. Let's go. Like let's go get this money.
Yeah, we need to get this money.
Like you got to end this money train, and I'm worried as well. I'm not gonna let this white boy sit here and beat on your face and destroy the money maker. But
also this police cruiser needs a new bumper.
I can't be riding around in a wild looking whip if I'm trying to be sheriff. Like that don't make no sense. How am I gonna take care of the county if I can't take care of my own house?
I'm so done.
That is what happened. That's what we watched unfold in this film.
God damn it.
I actually think, Nita, you said that this show and this film could very much be seen as like a precursor to Hannah Montana.
Such a good point you raised.
Because it's so similar.
Yeah, and I think as we were watching it, Christian, you sort of comment. It was a very similar comment that you made about just sort of the meta nature of, this TV show about this child star who kind of doesn't really want to be a child star, on Disney Channel.
Yeah,
like that
for
is
sure.
It's
a microcosm of the Disney child star to superstar dynamic that has plagued so many of the stars that we see today. Like this nigga has to choose between I don't know, growing up and actually enjoying childhood and becoming like a cog in the machine of a Hollywood behemoth. And I feel like every star worth their salt going through Disney had to encounter a similar quandary.
Yeah, because I feel like here the whole thing is Jet feels like Jet's getting lost under Silverstone. Like he's like, all anybody cares about is Silverstone. Nobody cares about Jet, and Jet is me. Like I'm Jet. If like we remove me from Silverstone, who am I? Like, which is a deep ass question to be going
it's an
through
incredible,
at like 14.
Yes, it's an incredible fucking meta, like insightful, ponderous thing that this child had to go through. And what did he ultimately do? He chose the monster. He chose the behemoth.
Right, and he chose it because he was like, this whole county is depending on me. And it's like, that's so much to put on a child.
Yes. The ending of this movie is rather sad. When you strip away the bed music, like you could really insert some like minor chords and some sad violins and have the credits roll. It's a very dystopian ending.
It is. No, it is. It's actually like, oh, so you're just going to choose to work for another 3 years. And that's also not to say he doesn't enjoy acting. I think he's just like, I kind of want to put it on the back burner so I can just like, I don't know, ride bikes and hang out with my friends sometimes.
Mm-hmm. He said no.
Yeah, and I mean, and even his alter ego, his doppelganger from another dimension, I guess, that we're writing into existence. Which is actually kind of cool. It's very stranger than fiction. I'm about that as a concept. Although the science in this is very loose.
Yes, you could not stop commenting on this. You wish they had a physicist on set.
Loose. Like, just even what they call certain things, you like, really, my friend? But all right, fine. Fair enough. I get it. It's a TV movie. But even his like other half, Silverstone, ends up choosing the same thing. He comes there, his whole thing at the beginning is that he also wonders what it would be like to have a family, to like live the life of a child, of the normality that he seems like. I mean, he says that he's been a spy for 14 years, which means that they literally took him as a baby. I have deep questions about that.
Yeah, I had a lot of questions about that too.
But let's just put that on the back burner for half a second. The lives that he is not necessarily sworn, but has been trained to protect. Like that's his big quandary too. Like he wants to explore that, or he just wants to have a piece of that. He also chooses the machine. Like they both are like, oh, let's like see like if we could do, because actually Jet never gets a moment of like, let's see what my life is like if I just do the thing I want to do. Like he never has that because he had no desire to be Silverstone. That was not part of.
That's true. His motives were never tested or just validated.
It's not. They didn't, and the problem is that they literally could have changed that by just fixing some sentences at the top of the film. But they really could. They could just like they literally could have inserted a moment where he's just like, I bet it would be so cool to be Silverstone and just know your purpose in life. That's all he had to say, and then
Wow, that's
everything else would have made sense.
What an incredible edit, and that would wow, you fixed that movie in a smooth 40 seconds.
I mean, I do what I do. Like, keep your eyes out. But yeah, so it's just interesting. Like, they both. This is one of those like net zero films.
Yeah.
Like, we go through a lot of trials and tribulations for no gain. There's no gain at the end. Like, maybe Silverstar learns to appreciate what he has, but Jet has to come and save him because they was about to write him into death.
They really were.
So I mean, I don't know. Also, why aren't we talking about the psychological moment of Homeboy realizing that, like, my life is being written by somebody else? All of our lives, Artemis, Hawk, we're not real.
The way that was an opportunity for like a real exploration of an existential crisis. Like, who is the writer of my own fate? And how do am I autonomous? No, I am not. I am always at the behest of some greater power. So is anything I'm actually doing have any meaning? We could have had a class about this.
Yep.
I think Disney was like, that's too much for like 10-year-olds to take it.
The executive decision came down from on high and said no. Also, Disney's not trying to push envelopes,
I don't know. We see these Pixar movies and they discuss,
but that's Pixar. That was acquired. You know what I mean? Like,
I understand.
I mean now, but in 2001, I don't think Disney was very interested in like
existentialism.
Or just not affirming certain tropes that already existed.
Yeah.
Because
they were probably already like, we took a step forward by having a Black protagonist. Like, that's already a big thing for them at this point.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, I don't think we need to go any further with that.
Yeah. I mean, on that point, a little seg, just to illustrate that, I was 7 when Jett Jackson came out, and I was a Disney Channel stan. And this nigga was like my first Black superhero, Silverstone. He's like, he was like the equivalent of the Green Lantern in the Justice League to me. The Black one there was. I
think John Allen, John something, John Green
something.
Maybe, yeah, something like that. Go on, sorry.
I had just never seen me reflected in that way in any of the mediums that I consumed. And he was a good-looking brother. His life wasn't just bathed in strife and struggle. Like, he was operating normally, albeit in a very white space, which I could also relate to. But I made the joke. I was like, Mom, like, wait, so there's other. It's not all just Amistad and Celefina. Like, niggas can just ride bikes to school and go home. What?
And go home.
It is true, and it's actually something that Nina and I have touched on quite a few times on this podcast. But the idea that, like, in the, I'd say like, let's say early 90s till about like 2005, there was very much this push, it seems, across all media, not even just children's media, for kids, that for like there to be all of these Black and a lot of the Black shows that were very much centered around them just doing regular things. Like, if you think of a Moesha, if you think of an All of Us, you think of like even like a Taina, which is obviously Latina, but she had, there was Black cast members as well. It was very much centered on like just them like going to performing arts school or going to just like living in LA as a teenager, like just all these things that are so regular. And I mean, this one, obviously he's like an actor, so that's like a bit exceptional, but still he lives a very regular life in this small Southern town and like is also an actor on the side, which is cool. But there's no, like you're saying, there's just no extra drama attached to that. Like,
I have a question for both of you, piggybacking off that. Would you say that specific era of the early aughts, late 90s, in which Black normalcy is highlighted, do you think like we've gone backwards representationally in media like today? Because I don't know that I see normal niggas doing normal shit as much as I maybe used to growing up in the shows I watch. shows and movies.
I would definitely personally say I think so, because I feel like now if something is greenlit with a Black person, it has to be like a soap opera,
Yeah.
or it has to be some type of like intense drama, or it has to be like on the far margins of comedy. Like,
Yeah, like in Atlanta.
right, yeah, it's like you're in Atlanta, you have Random Acts of Flyness, which I love. I love both of those shows, but like
Yeah.
you're at the furthest side. We don't have like as many Black sitcoms. The last one I can really think of is Gerard Carmichael's The Carmichael Show.
Yeah, I loved that show, by the way.
Yeah, and like I think we have like The Neighborhood with Cedric and Tashina, which is cool, but like we don't have that for younger people anymore.
For sure. Yeah, those are not for us. Those are for the old heads. Those are for the
right.
boomers.
Like it's like my parents love that, and like I watched it when I was at home. I was like, oh, this is cool, but like this is not for me. Like everything for us is like dramatic AF. Like it's dramatic, or there's some sort of trauma, or it's just like something is happening. Like something is always happening that isn't just like regular, like, yeah, I'm 16 and I'm going to a party and I'm just trying to like navigate that space. You know, like of me trying to get a kiss from a guy at 16 years old, or going to my first college party at 19 or whatever, you know? Like it's like that's never it. A lot of our shows now, and maybe it is because it's more reflective of Gen Z, which I feel like they've been through some shit.
Yeah.
And, you know, so maybe Euphoria is really what they relate to. I could not tell you, I'm not in Gen Z. Even though I think that's very much for
in my
us.
life who feel a very strong connection with Euphoria.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I feel like it does
Very, very
like,
strong.
Yeah. I feel like it very much like is their life, which is kind of sad.
Which is terrifying is what it is. Not just sad. Scary.
It is, because I'm just like, you know, we just didn't have that same amount of anxiety, and I think it comes into like the whole social media thing and everything, because it's not like stuff like this wasn't always going on. It's more that it wasn't amplified to us in the same way. They have access to so much more now, so it's like they are just aware of so much more. Like I couldn't imagine being 14, 15, 16 right now. Like it's hard. Like they go through all this shit and have to be on social media and know all this constant, like they have to know so much stuff that I'm like, if y'all had met me at 15, I would have been long canceled. Like, cause I didn't know. I'm just running around here.
I think given our combos today, all three of us would have been canceled at 15.
Oh, me and my friends used to, like our thing, because like I went to a high school that was I went to a private high school in New York, like predominantly white, very predominantly white, and like I had probably I had a very diverse group of friends for my school, like very, very diverse group of friends. But like our favorite thing to do for a period of time, and like not even our favorite thing to do, like a lot of us have gotten older and we've reflected on it and we've been like, damn, that was like fucked up. But like the race jokes were everywhere. Like it was bad. Like deep. And like there was a period of time where I remember like some of my friends, like they got really into this joke of doing this thing of like whenever I would speak being like, what like slow down, you know, I don't understand Ebonics, like no matter what I was saying, like, and like I don't have like bad memories of that because I was in on the joke too, but it's like thinking back on that, it's like that's the type of shit that like, you know, like one of my friends from high school at that time, her younger brother is like in Gen Z, and like she told me that just one time about like how he came home, he came home talking about like microaggressions, and she was like, "What? Like from our school, from the high school that we went to? Like they're teaching you about microaggressions there? That don't make no sense." Like
no, but it's so true. There's just so much more of a they speak out a lot more because they have the language for it. I feel like we did not have language. We might have experienced the same thing, but we did not have the language for it. So we weren't exposed.
We weren't exposed yet. Like I feel like a lot of us got that exposure like in college doing AFAM studies.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is that thing that I experienced that I literally couldn't name.
Right.
Whereas like we then learned that and then we put it on Twitter and then they consumed that when they were 13. Right. So now they get it. But I mean I also think it's an interesting thing to bring up in relation to this show, this movie, and just like the concept of, I said like this is a weird like precursor to Hannah Montana. I do find it interesting that in that one, like the little white girl does get to like live her life and be a pop star, but whatever.
Yeah, she has more, like, at the end of the day, she has complete autonomy over how she operates and goes about her world. Whereas this unequal labor is just placed on this black man, and it's kind of sad to look back at it, for sure. Like, the movie kind of, like, there was a cool quote unquote a fight scene denouement. I was like, oh my god, okay, we're getting somewhere. And at the end of the day, again, there's a net zero game, like you said, and everyone just kind of went back to their old lives with no new insights. And then the credits rolled, and I'm just like, well, then what the hell did we just watch?
Why, Disney? Why? To make that buck. But I do like really quickly want to respond to your question, because I don't know if I agree in many ways with what Chelsea said. I do have a slightly differing approach to the way that I view the sort of state of what we'll just call, like, current Black media.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of feel like it might live in a place of, I think a lot of the people making that right now, right? These creators who are maybe like, let's say like at most, I'm 27, so at most like 10, they're living in the decade before me, right?
Right.
So whereas I was watching Moesha at like 6 and loving it and like learning how to be a teenager, they were watching it at like 15 and like seeing themselves reflected on the screen, right? And then there was a moment where all of that went away, right? Like we had that period of time, like somewhere like from like 2003, let's say, like really until, there was about a decade and a half where like something that seemed so prolific, to the point where they made a television channel for it.
Yeah, UPN.
UPN and BT. Like we had we had multiple versions. Stars did a whole, like, they still do, like, it's their big
Stars Black
hook.
or whatever it's called.
Exactly that, like, yo, we got Drumline. I mean, HBO Max has it now, but for a while they were the ones with Drumline. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they made Survivor's Remorse. Like, they're like, yo, if you want the Black stuff, we got you. Come here. HBO don't got you. We got you. But I think, like, so it sort of went away, and I feel like it went away at the time when those people who are creating now, when they were like the same way that we're like beginning our sort of producer journeys, like actual producer journeys and creating our own content. That went away when they were beginning those journeys, I feel like. And I can imagine in a way that, like, there's a response that sort of, I don't know, it's like it becomes a thing that's like you grew up and you had all these images and these representations of yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So you're not necessarily stressed about like, oh, like I've never seen a Black girl just live her life, right? You're not necessarily stressed about like that node of like missing, but like what you do know is that suddenly people stopped caring about Black stories. And now you're in a position where you can create Black stories.
For sure.
And I just wonder sometimes if like, and I mean, it is also partly because like white people love to feel guilty and then like have a cathartic release of their guilt watching movies and not feel like they have to do anything about it because they watched the movie and felt bad. Mm-hmm. So like, narratives of Black trauma sell really, really well. That's very, very true.
Yeah.
To
interject, to a white person, seeing 12 Years a Slave was quote unquote doing the work.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Right? Like that was it. Not reading the book after either. Just
the movie.
The film. Just watching the movie. They said I saw Chiwetel run for an entire 2 hours.
Exactly. Like I understand your pain. Okay. But like I wonder if there's a node of like I can imagine a psychology existing in a space of like you didn't understand why it was so important that we had our representation on the screen. You thought it was something that could be cut off.
Yeah, like
let me tell
have the
you
time.
why it can't be cut off. Because you did this and you did that and you did that, and we went through this and we went through this and we went through that, and we're still going through this and that. And when we're making like our greatest fear is not like just somebody coming in the house. Our greatest fear is like looking up and realizing that the person in the mirror is no longer me, that there's a shadow version of myself that I'm existing as. In this movie, there's literally that moment where that white girl's like, oh, there are two of them. And I was like, that's a metaphor for all the ways that a black man has to code switch his entire life.
Exactly.
My greatest
you hear that?
fear.
Those are snaps right here. These are snaps right here.
You know, my greatest fear is that I'm gonna wake up one day in a white body and not understand how I got there, and mean that both metaphorically and literally. You know what I mean? Like, I can understand a world in which like this is actually the natural response to the sudden just like deprioritizing of any Black story that happened in those like years, which I would argue are the pivotal years of the people that we are now watching who have the full license to create.
Of course. And like
so that's just my nuanced opinion. Like, I still feel a lot of what Chelsea feels about it, because I do want to watch less trauma, but I can also understand like if it's like if something's room for you, you're like, not after all the trauma we done been through. And let me tell you about yourself real quick. Like, I can also understand maybe how that's a part of it.
Cool. That was amazing.
Well, I think the diversity of the experience too is what matters. Like one of me and Christian's mutual friends, Christiana, she always says like, even within like the Black experience, there's so many different stories that you can get into that are just like never touched. And it's like we don't even really, I don't think have we had like a West Indian like live action sitcom?
Chelsea,
Sorry. But you know, but I'm literally, that's
but no,
saying,
you're right.
though.
You're
Like,
right. You're right.
We haven't had like an all like, you know, Nigerian, like specifically, maybe if we had like an Igbo family or whatever. We have like Bob Hart's Abishola, but I'm like, okay,
they exist. They exist
like,
in far. Like, you get a good. Like, there are some that exist in England.
Yeah, I may destroy you.
I mean, even beyond, like, I know that there's that, like, I haven't really watched all of it, but it's on my list. But I think it's the Adabanjos.
It's so good. Oh my god.
On Netflix. It's literally a Nigerian sitcom, but I don't think it's Nigerian though. I think
it's English.
I think it's English. It's a Nigerian family, but I mean, I could be entirely wrong. It could just be a Nigerian sitcom, but I don't think it is. But I feel like I've seen pockets of it in other places that just aren't America, where they understand or like literally just the African American doesn't exist, and like the story of segregation or of like racial politics is a lot more. It's not more complicated. It's just different, and it is a lot more heavily influenced by immigrant populations in addition to forcibly transferred peoples. Whereas the American story of Blackness very much focuses on the African American experiences that happened, and often sort of doesn't even recognize immigrant populations that are physically Black.
Right.
Sure.
No, I know. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm like, we don't have it. And I'm like, but it's there. So it's just like, it's just that you're missing an entire diversity, because I think especially when people just say like Black, it's a very specific thing that you call to mind. Here, like you're saying, it's very much the Black American people that, you know, their ancestors were enslaved here in North America or in the US. But it's like, obviously at this point, the Black population is much more than just Black Americans. So we don't get any of that nuance as well. And it's just one of those things that like, the more you like start getting into it, it's like, it's not even just that we need the types of stories we need. It's a multiplicity of them. Like it's like
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
not even that you have to do the exact same. Like I'm not saying you have to give me Moesha all over again. Like I loved it, and sure, yeah, if you guys want to do some semblance of that one day, cool. But like you could do so much more. Like focus on. You could even do a Black American that's Muslim. Like I'm just like there's just whatever you want. We have so many stories out there that just aren't even being told. That I think it's just like it's just sad. It's just sad if any way you look at it, because it's just like you guys are doing a specific type of Black,
Yeah.
and it's just not all encompassing when it could be.
Yeah, I mean, even as we were watching this, I know like Christian and I were having a little bit of a thing with like Jet's Nana, because like
a true magical
she-
Negro
like a literal
Yeah,
true
no, the
magical
fact that they
Negro.
had a magical Negro in a Black movie.
in the Black movie. Yeah, you said that. That was
It's kind of insane, but it was also this thing of like this thing of like real. Like I realized watching, I was like, oh wait, there is this, and it is a magical Negro trope, but it's like a weird subset of it, of like the very kindly, like Black American grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And I think both Christian and I were like, or I mean, like, I know at least for me, like as a child of Jamaican immigrants, I was like, I don't think that that's how my grandmother would react to anything.
absolutely.
Like, and even like even my kindest of aunts, like there's always an edge to that kindness. Like it's not even like it's like, I feel like in media, in American media, it's presented as like the Black mother figure is presented like there's a hardiness, but it's like it's very like kind, and it's not like a razor sharp hardiness. It's just like a roots of the earth type of hardiness. There's
an edge to immigrant elders that it really isn't found here. That's why I almost felt myself yearning for this grandma, because I never got to have her.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
I was like,
I periodically kept like unpausing my mute and being like, "Ma'am, isn't she the greatest?" Like that was my only commentary.
It's like the greatest.
Like she's just so supportive.
Yeah.
Look at her out here loving this baby that's not even hers.
Yeah,
like
accepting both versions of Jet.
Exactly. I would have been so much. You know what I mean?
You and I was like, is that a single tear that rolled down my cheek in the middle of the group? I was like,
and then I was like, oh, but remember, Nita, this is also orchestrated and a lie that they are telling you. Like,
yes. And I just came upon, I had a little revelation, just timing wise. I feel like The Matrix was big at this point in time. Am I wrong?
Yeah,
and
it was very heavy.
So
heavy
they really
Matrix
leaned
influence.
into the Silver Fox world of it all. And remember, the Oracle in The Matrix was a Black woman.
Yeah, she is, yeah.
Which is the most
You're
magical Negro terrible thing ever. And they kind of borrowed a bit of that, I believe. I feel like for this dynamic. I hope.
Artemis is definitely based on Morpheus.
Yes,
like conceptually.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like,
they were like, we just need a Black guy.
Yeah. That's a great point.
And Hawk is definitely Trinity. That's her name. Right?
Yeah.
Trinity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously this is your show, but I definitely want to leave space for talking about our main actor here, Mr. Lee Thompson Young. Yeah. We don't have to do it all that much, but whenever you guys want.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's sad that, I'm not sure if I'm sure everybody knows this because it was.
No, my roommate didn't know. He was like,
really?
My new roommate's a Black dude, and he was like, yo, I used to love Jett Jackson. I was like, the actor took his own life. And he was just like, shut the fuck up. Are you serious? When did that happen?
Wow, I feel like it was such a big story, but just
I guess it's a
relatively
relatively
know, he did.
Yeah.
Lee Thompson Young committed suicide in 2013, and it was very sad, and also of course, there was just an outpouring of love and support because it was just nobody knows. That's the thing, and that's always what happens with a lot of these. When that tends to happen, is just people are like, I had no idea. But I think with him, he also had been, struggling with mental illness as well. And, it's just sad because he was such a young, promising like actor. Like when we were even looking up the show, The Famous Jett Jackson, like he actually wrote a whole episode of the show at 14.
Yeah, so
Because he
wild.
actually was 14 when he first started playing the character. He wrote the lyrics to the end theme song, apparently. Like,
I didn't
this
know
dude
that.
was
That's
a
amazing.
beast, like crazy talented. He was such a great actor. He was on Rizzoli and Isles. When he
Friday Night Lights, the movie as well.
and he was in Friday Night Lights. Like he was just in so much stuff. Like
Johnny Tsunami,
yes, he was in
Yeah.
Johnny Tsunami.
Leader of the Urchins.
He was just in so many things, and I think we really grew up with him.
Yeah.
He kind of like was throughout our childhoods, and then as we came into adulthood, and he was only 29 when he took his life. So yeah, it's just something like, yeah, you miss that type of talent, and it's just so sad.
For sure. And speaking of meta, just a revelation I had. I mean, the end of his life is like a weird product of like the situation they explored in the movie. I don't want to assume anything, but I have to like think that his career path, and from being a child star to being like an adult professional actor, I'm sure it wasn't conducive to like a very loving, fostering mental health state, which is what he needed. Like I can only assume that his whole trajectory kind of professionally at least had a hand in him, really sinking to the depths of the last resort, So it's like the movie ends and he's like, I'm working for y'all. And then this nigga really did work for the people.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wasn't no white people clapping at the end of his life, It's sad. Sorry to get deep and dark, but as a black,
but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I think especially like suicide isn't really talked about amongst Black men or Black people in general. I feel like it's very much something that's kind of kept like hush hush if it does happen, and people don't really talk about mental illness, and especially in our communities. And so it's just one of those things that I think people need to be a lot more open about and seek help if you're able to, if you feel like you're going through anything like that. And
or even if you're not,
yeah,
like there's a, it's like the one of let me rephrase this. But preventative care is often a lot less costly. I think that's the best way to say it.
I mean, quite clearly, yeah.
Yeah, like it's literally less costly. So it's like it's also a thing of, like I think in our communities we have to just open up to not just when things are bad or dark or in a precarious place, but just generally speaking, be sort of open to, I'm having a great day or I'm having a not great day. And yesterday maybe was a little different and tomorrow might be different too. And just be like open to the fact that in all of those iterations, in all of those stages, you might need to talk to somebody about the greatness that's happening or the not greatness that's happening. And like not only being open to allowing people the space to do that, but to creating various spaces in which that can be done. Like I knew somebody who was, they were doing like a whole thesis thing about how hairdressers and barbers were the therapists of Black neighborhoods, of urban Black neighborhoods, and recognized that, knew that, and would, when someone sat in their chair would, like I know he's going through something, so I check in on him. I ask him what's going on with this, that, and the third. So yeah, it's like I think that there's a lot of room for us to grow in that, and it's just a matter of just like constantly attempting to support each other and understanding that like the support doesn't just start when the problem begins. In fact, like having open room and creating spaces where people just know that they can go for support often will keep problems, or hopefully keep problems farther and farther at bay.
Especially in these times.
Yeah.
I definitely have to take preventative measures myself. And shout out to you, Chelsea, because we've had a black therapist. We've just had mental health convos, and I don't know that I would have like had enough fuel in the tank to like really keep trying to find a good therapist if it like wasn't if it wasn't for you pushing me to like do so. Like, so thank you for that.
Yeah, no
Found
problem.
me
I
a
was
nice
on your
black
ass.
lady.
I
You
would
were.
randomly text him and be like, "Did you?"
I must have looked like I was in trouble for you to, for you to keep doing that.
Hey, listen, you never know. So
True.
I was just
True.
like, listen. You
Chelsea's
mentioned this-
very
You
good with
mentioned
the
this
care
randomly a
and the
year
checking
ago,
in.
so I'm gonna just keep checking in on it.
It fucking works. I'm just saying. So thank you.
But yeah, I think we need to be a lot more open, especially as like specifically calling out Black people, because I think a lot of us have been raised with the idea that like you take all your problems, if you are somebody that was religiously raised, especially to like God, and many times you need more than that, so I think we should definitely like make sure that you are open and available to talk to people about helping them to get the resources or whatever it is. Just even talking to your friends and asking them how they're really doing, and not just like, how are you, just not like a simple how are you. So yeah, I definitely think that's important.
For sure. Man, R.I.P. Lee Thompson Young though, for real, because we lost just watching this back and seeing just like the charisma and the obvious talent that was there at a young age, and now you're like, damn, it seemed like he was just getting started. He had so much more to give.
He really did. He really was, and he was so talented. It's like you just lost a bright spot,
Yeah.
A star. Sure. But hopefully, people will, I don't know, be able to get help if they need it, and we can avoid that happening.
To another young black
man, right?
Yeah, for sure. We got enough to deal with as Black people.
Listen.
Ooh, ain't that the truth?
We have a lot.
There's a lot going on.
Sometimes you got to lay those burdens down with somebody who is
right, and
PhD'd, okay.
And here's the thing of it. Other cultures, they have no issue doing that. So like, and like we shouldn't. We who have so much going on at any given moment should not need to feel any sense of shame or weakness or just lack of ability because we not even need to want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is more than time for Black people to be able to lay some of these damn burdens down.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that you got to do, I am specifically speaking to all of my Black people out there right now, anything that you got to do to lay some burdens down, go ahead and do it.
Because you deserve that shit.
Really do.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess with that, on that
transition,
cheerful note.
It's not terrible. It's a good discussion.
No, it's a great discussion. And now for the babies, like, guys, do you think that you would show this film to your kids?
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Once we can find, I would like for somebody to put this up on their streaming app, along with the show. That would be helpful, because I would love to like show them the show, because especially for little boys and girls. But I know with what Christian was saying, like, Jett Jackson meant a lot to a lot of people.
Yep.
And
keep going. I'm sorry.
No, I was he's just like, he meant a lot to a lot of people, and that show was so important.
It was a shame to know that it wasn't on Disney Plus, this behemoth that brags about having all the content we need, and maybe obviously there's probably like copywriting issues or whatever, but it ain't like Disney don't have the money to settle that. Let's keep it a buck. But for me to be so excited and then have to pay to watch this show that I grew up on, this show and movie, like, it was just, and like,
it's only the movie. You can't even get the show.
Yeah, you can't even get the show.
Oh, the show is just nowhere to be found?
Nope.
Yo, erased again. How anti-black, god damn it. But if I did have the opportunity to show, like, I saw like this shit matters. Like, I saw what Black Panther did for me at a smooth 27 years of age, 26, whatever how old I was. I was like, yo, finally. Like, that's how I felt. Like, to be able
I
to
feel
give
yeah, no,
that
collectively.
for sure. To be able to give that to a young kid and then walk them through why they should feel proud and emboldened is very invaluable. Yeah, definitely show this to future babies, or maybe the ones that are out there that I don't even know I have. You know.
Oh no, Christian.
just running around. They gonna come find you after this podcast.
Absolutely.
They're gonna be like, oh, that's where he's at.
Like,
let me go and find his handle. Like, let me go do that.
I heard her say producer at the beginning.
Ooh, we got some checks to collect.
Just take
You
their
hear that,
little
baby?
locked up baby and be like, this is it.
Oh my god.
What about you, Nina?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would really love to not have to pay to do that, but I think I don't know. I guess it speaks to a larger thing for me. And like, you know, Christian, you sort of mentioned with Black Panther, like I have this little cousin and I have many little cousins, but one of my little cousins in particular, he's getting older now and he's like, you know, he's about to be he is a teenager, but he's a teenager now. And he's like, you know, probably too cool for school in many ways, you know, because he's adorable and smart and all those things. But when he was younger, like he came out, when Black Panther came out, he was maybe like 9 or 10, somewhere in that. And I don't see him very often. But I just distinctly remember like it came out and but he knows me as like his like big cousin that lets him talk about like video games and comic books and can like contribute at least a little bit to the conversation with him. So like the first time he saw me after Black Panther came out, obviously after he had seen it, he literally just threw that X up like so fast.
Hell yeah.
Like he saw me, he was like, yo, like, duh. And I remember, because I have my own feelings about Black Panther. It's complicated, but I remember, I know, I feel weird saying it on the podcast to people who aren't Black, but whatever. But I remember the way that like my heart swelled in that moment. And I think you brought up something particularly important about like this idea of being able to walk them through, right?
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting to me about that is that like I think that it doesn't like I wouldn't have to tell like I could show you, maybe I show this to my like I don't think I would have to explain to a child like that feeling. He had that feeling on his own, right? He watched this movie and then he saw me and he knew me as somebody who like recognized sci-fi, knew what he was into. And like he had never thrown up like a Batman symbol. He'd never done any of that, but he saw me and he threw that X up. He felt that. I think the beautiful idea to me is like being able to like show something to like the like little Black boys in my life and know that they felt something and then be able to say, that thing you felt, here's its legacy. Here's where it came from. Here's like all of the ways in which we got here. Here are the superheroes that led us to this point, and those superheroes didn't always have powers, and those superheroes weren't always spies. Like he was a superhero by being 14 and starring in his own show, but there were superheroes before that who were your age and who were willing to like walk with their parents across many, many state lines to stand in Washington. There were heroes before that who like literally just had the wherewithal to keep surviving even when white boys across the street, like across the tracks, threw rocks at them for like holding a book in their hand. Like it's a legacy of heroes. And like that is sort of the deep impulse to me, like with this, like it almost doesn't matter how good the movie is.
Which
like,
is not very.
It's not very. It's pretty horrible, actually. But it's not, and that means that like somebody else who like doesn't have that impetus or doesn't necessarily. I mean, I think everybody should. I think it's the best for humanity that all people are very interested in what becomes of Blackness and where the quote unquote Black struggle leads to, because it is a reflection of humanity.
Of course.
But yeah, maybe there are people who are not going to be as interested in it for that reason, and therefore would probably be like, no, I'm not showing this to my kids, or like not going to like make my kids watch this because like it doesn't like, and that's cool. But I think for me, like it does live in that very kind of like you guys were saying. I'm really just adding or attempting to add to what you guys were saying, that it lives in that very sort of emotional space. So just like, you know, we talk like Chelsea and I talk a lot about like being Black, little Black girls on this podcast. And what even these bad TV movies were able to do for us, or these like kids shows were able to do for us as little Black girls. And like, I need my sons, I need my little cousins, I need my nephews, I need all the little Black boys in the world to like get those moments too. And so if one of the ways that I can orchestrate that is maybe it's 7, maybe not at 11, because at 11 they'll be like, but I don't understand why he went through that poor when he knew that poor was gonna do it. Like they might have actual questions at 11 that I'll have to be like it's a TV writer. Like when you, not even a TV writer, it's a like it was a different time. Like I would just have to explain things that aren't relevant. But at 6, yeah, like let's bang it out.
Hell yeah. Well said. Beautifully said.
And I think with that, guys, we will talk to you next week. Thank you, Christian, for joining us. If you want to maybe say your social media handles, if you feel comfortable, if you want people to follow you and your work as a producer.
If y'all want to follow me, check me out on Instagram at thatboybanda. ThatBoybanda. And sorry in advance.
I like that. I respect that.
Thank you for joining us, Christian, and we will talk to you guys.
A true honor, for real. Like you two are just so fucking smart and acerbic. I think that's the way you pronounce that word. And just, I don't know. This was a joy, and I think we gleaned like way more insight than the text was ever giving us or meant to give us. and that was a fun time. So I'm a fan of you two and of what y'all do. So thanks.
Oh, thank you, Christian.
For sure.
And guys, we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening.
Peace, y'all.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Critics Kingdom. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify and SoundCloud so you can stay up to date, as well as interacting and letting us know what you guys think on social media. You can find us on Twitter at Critics Kingdom and on Instagram at The Critics Kingdom. We're excited to talk to you again next week.